Yo, yo, what's going on, fellow hip hop heads? Welcome to a brand new week and welcome to a brand new edition of what we like to call the Shifting the Culture podcast, where we talk about the different artists, different events, controversies, and all that shit in between that center around this world we know and love as hippity hippity hip hop. I am your host, the vegan you believe in, Conscious Kurt, aka the professor in the flesh, as always.
And this is King Khan, aka the Evil Genius, live and direct once again. What's going on, man?
Nothing much, man. Just chilling on this nice Fourth of July day. I'm probably gonna maybe go to the pool after I get off work, have some vegan burgers, maybe do a Rocky marathon, just chill, have a low key day.
Okay, sounds good. I'm probably gonna head to the pool a little bit later. So yeah, it sounds like a pretty chill day.
I mean, our real Fourth of July really was 2 weeks ago with Juneteenth, but whatever. People still celebrate this day like
Yeah,
it's a big deal, and at least it gives me an excuse to watch Rocky movies. So I'll give it that.
I hear you. Well, celebrate however whatever makes you feel like you need to celebrate.
Definitely will. But let's not really waste any time. Let's get into our main stories of the day. As this past Sunday, we had the BET Awards, and the BET Awards sparked up a lot of discussion, a lot of debate about whether or not the show was good, the show was bad, or whether or not BET is like pushing the culture back as opposed to pushing the culture forward. But I know you and I did watch the show on Monday together at your house, and I wanted to know what you thought of it.
Yeah, I thought it was overall. I thought it was okay. I felt like there were some parts that were good. I feel like some parts were, weren't weren't unnecessary or extra. But I get it with the award shows, and they're trying to appeal to a bunch of people, so I get it. But yeah, I don't know. Some of the artists that were performing, I feel like yeah, they could have done a better job of having more diverse artists. But nonetheless, I felt like overall it was a decent night. What do you think? What did you think? Like anything stood out to you or?
It was cool to see Will Smith perform for the first time in a while.
Yeah, it's been a minute since he.
Yeah, that was a nice surprise. Also, seeing Kendrick win Best Hip Hop Artist and like setting the record for the most times anyone's won it for BET was a good look, even though he wasn't really there to accept it. Victoria Monet had a good performance. She was dope, and the Usher tribute was dope too. It was kind of weird that all women performed for him, but I wasn't complaining about the women he had perform for him.
Yeah, I feel like Victoria Monet, she been doing the thing behind the scenes, like writing and producing, and now she's becoming like her own artist, and it was good to see her get her flowers. She had a really great year with her album, and then "Get It From My Mama" was a pretty big song. So yeah, definitely gets the credit that she deserves. I don't know if you remember, but she's actually not really new. She's been around for a while. She was actually on Nas's "Life Is Good" album. I don't know if you remember that song. "Wouldn't Understand." I don't know if you remember that track, but she was the one that was on the vocals on that song.
I'll look out for it.
But yeah, she's been around for a minute, just like kind of like behind the scenes. But now she's like starting to put herself out there more. So yeah, it was definitely dope to see her. I felt like she had a good performance. Meg Thee Stallion's performance was pretty good. She did her thing. The with the Usher performance, I feel like they could have done a lot, a little bit better. I would like to see like some male performers. I know him and Chris Brown are not really cool like that, so I understand why Chris Brown maybe wasn't there. But I don't know. I felt like you need like a male, because Usher, maybe it could have even been like an older artist, but an artist like that's like in the same lane as him, like kind of sings, dance, and does the whole thing. So I felt like they could have done a better job of at least having some males included, but nonetheless, I feel like the females, did the best that they could. Tiana Taylor did her thing, and a couple others. So yeah, shouts out to them. But overall, I think it was all right. And one thing I did like was how Killer Mike won the album of the year, and he got to celebrate in the same building where where he won the Grammy, and he was arrested on that same night. So it was good to see like that full circle moment and see him, getting like a getting praised in front of everybody in the same building where that happened. So I thought that was a dope moment.
Yeah, that was definitely a good look. He definitely deserved it. And I enjoyed also parts of the show, but sitting through 3.5 hours of that shit with the commercials, that shit sounds like a drag. Thank God we watched that recorded. Yeah, because sitting through that whole show from start to finish with all that, yeah, that shit is not for me anymore. In 2004, 2005 it was, but in 2024, especially with what the culture is like now, yeah, that shit is a fucking chore. But overall, the one thing I will say about it is that this is definitely a far cry from the BET we grew up with as kids. I mean, we've said this on the show before, but just that whole show and the whole vibe of it, it definitely solidified all that. That yeah, this is not the BET and not the really hip hop culture in general that we grew to know and love. It's definitely taken a turn.
Yeah, definitely. I feel like there was a lot of influence by. I think like this BET Awards was heavily influenced by politics, being that it was an election year. So there was just a lot going on this year, and yeah. Another thing that I forgot to mention also was Lauren Hill actually performed at the end to close out the show with her son, and then also Wyclef came out as well. So that was a dope moment to see that. You know, Lauren Hill hasn't really gotten be on those type of stages in a long time, so it was dope to see her and to see also another
Well,
folks.
maybe she's been invited, but she never shows up.
Well, she showed up this time, and yeah, she brought out her son, and his son performed, his new song that he has out that's pretty popular. And then yeah, it was dope to see them, and to see them close the show out that way, and to see Lauren Hill, getting some flowers. So that was a dope part. But one thing I did notice that they were heavily pushing the election, and we're talking about Project 2025, which is very very important with this election year, like what these Republicans are trying to do and what they're trying to do with the Supreme Court. Like this election is very very important. So we definitely everybody needs to read up on Project 2025 and see what the agenda is about and what they're trying to do and trying to call it like a second revolution where they're trying to take back all of the rights that we fought for civil rights over the last 200 years. So it's definitely an important election and definitely people need to look into that Project 2025.
Yeah, look into that, but regardless, the selection shit is still a joke, and I stand by that. They can do these little PSAs all they want, they can say vote or die all they want, but I see through this shit, and more people are seeing through this shit. They're not fooling anybody.
Yeah, I get it. Nobody's fool, but at the end of the day, these are their choices, and you got to pick one or the other. And if you don't choose one, then that means you're picking the wrong side. That's this, especially with this year, this election.
And that's the problem. They keep putting you in these different situations where you're forced to choose between some shit that doesn't serve your best interest and some other shit that's even worse. And the more we keep going along with it, the more we keep just tagging along with it and not saying anything, the less incentive they're gonna have to change. This is the this is the third straight election that we've gotten the two shittiest options, and the fact that we just keep going along with it and going along with it, saying, oh, but Trump's gonna do this, Trump's gonna do that. Nothing ever fucking changes. And until people wake up and start seeing through this bullshit and calling it out more and maybe doing something to make a change, we're gonna be in this exact same boat in 2028. Don't say I didn't warn you.
We'll see. Well, I don't know. There got to be a better solution than this.
But yeah, enough of that political bullshit. That shit's not really positive stuff to talk about. Let's get into more of the positive stuff. But yeah, the BET Awards overall, whether you loved them or you hated them, they had people talking about them, which I guess is exactly what they wanted. But one person who was absent from the BET Awards was Nicki Minaj, who won the Best Female Hip Hop Artist Award, to no surprise. But apparently, she's had beef with BET for years, and that was one of the reasons why she was not there.
Makes sense. Yeah.
Yeah, they said something about her in like 2016. And one person who was very vocal about Nicki Minaj and her influence on modern female hip hop was one Lil Mama, where she basically blamed Nicki Minaj for inspiring a generation of musical prostitutes. And this is like the full quote of what she had to say. These young women are not influenced by Kim. Nicki is influenced by Kim. These women are 23. What major musical prostitutes do you remember from the last 15 years? Who do you think they watch corporate give a platform and flowers for slitting out? Be for real. Like I said, they are laughing at us, and the award was a thanks to you. Now we have seven, eight, nine of them.
Yeah, I feel like she's partially true. I don't feel like Nicki Minaj, meant to do this meant to have an influence like this way on purpose. But she definitely, is part to blame, takes part of the blame. I also blame like these artists' parents and the people surrounding them and their team for promoting this type of behavior. If we go back even further, like Nicki Minaj wasn't the first person to be like that. We had Little Kim, we had Foxy Brown to a certain extent. So there's been other female artists throughout the years who have been raunchy and have used sex, to kind of like sell themselves. But I wouldn't put all the blame necessarily on Nicki Minaj, but she definitely has had a big influence, especially with the social media era and social media being a big thing, and her having a big following with her barbs and all that going online. So yeah, definitely, and I see some truths to it. I don't feel like she takes all the blame, but yeah, I do agree that it's getting too out of hand with all of these female artists. All they want to do is twerk. It's not about really like the talent. Like if you look at Ice Spice when she's doing a performance, she says two words and sees that the crowd is not reacting, and then all of a sudden she turns herself and bends over backwards to get a reaction. Like I don't know what the hell we're teaching to our younger females, but that's just not the way to go. I understand that you want to be an audience and get a reaction, but at the same time you gotta understand of the influence that you have, and the kids that are watching, especially now with social media, is more important. We have to have like a balance, and I feel like there's more of like the women twerking and the sexy reds and the females like that, and not enough like rap cities and more conscious hip hop art female artists that that are dope in their own right. There's a lot of female artists that are up and coming who who are not a raunchy or not showing themselves like that, but they don't get the same like attention as some of these other artists because they're bending over backwards. So I feel like to a certain extent, Lil Mama is correct, but it's not all on Nicki's shoulders to hold the blame.
No, it's not. And I'll admit, like before Nicki came along, there was kind of a void for like a female rapper who was like on that level for a while. And then when she came along, she kind of opened the door for the Cardi B's, the Megan Thee Stallions, the Doja Cats, etc. But over the last few years, it definitely feels like the game's been oversaturated with these girls just talking about the same shit, promoting the same shit, and most of the shit that they're promoting is toxic, negative, and overall, more than anything else, the music for the most part isn't that good.
Yeah, it's not. They're just using the sex to sell, and you put the video with the song, and you think that it's a good song, but it's really not. Like I don't see any like a lot of these songs in like 5, 10 years from now being able to be able to put those songs on and still hitting the same way. Like they're good songs for the moment, but they're not timeless records or timeless songs, classic.
Hell, they're not even good for the moment. They're not good, period, for the most part.
Well, there's a demographic that may disagree with you. There are
That's fine.
there's I don't get mad at the type of music that they make. There's music for everybody, and it's just different times of life and different settings where that type of music would apply. It's just not something I would prefer, but some people that to each his own. That's what they like.
Yeah, and that was the thing, like back in the 90s and even the 2000s. Yeah, you had your little Kims, you had your Foxy Browns, but you also had your Missy Elliott's, you had your Eves, you had your MC Lights. There was a balance. There was a balance of female rappers who talked about different things. It didn't feel like that they were all the same and that they were all doing the same shit. They all had like their own personality and their own shit to offer. But now, especially after watching the BET Awards this past Sunday, it feels like I've said before, most of them are all clones of each other.
And I feel like city girls, I would say more had more of an influence of where we're at now. I feel like they're the ones who really started with the, oh, if your man don't got money, I can't fuck with you, and if you're not buying me this and that, like you're a piece of shit, dude. Like I feel like that's kind of like when that kind of started. That kind of music
I feel
when the
like
city girls came out and started.
I feel like maybe in a way more it started with Cardi B. I feel like maybe Cardi B was more of an influence on that than Nicki Minaj was.
Well, yeah, Cardi B, City Girls, they all came out like around the same time, and then Lauren Hill got she didn't want to make music, so there was like a gap, and Nicki Minaj took that opening and did her thing, and then but we didn't have anything to like have a balance, like another artist that kind of counteracted what Nicki Minaj was doing during that time. So that's what all these are know. And I think social media plays a big part. Like females think that if they don't look a certain way, or if they don't live a certain lifestyle, or have all these dudes taking them on trips and buying them all this shit that they're not worth anything. And I feel like that has a lot to do with it as well. Getting all these surgeries and BBLs and shit. Like it's horrible. It's whack.
Yeah, they're just promoting toxic, negative ass shit, and I can see through it. A lot of us can see through it. And apparently, Little Mama could too. Although people are divided on what she said, as some people agree with her, but other people kind of felt it was sour grapes because of the fact that she wasn't there and she hasn't really like done much in the last few years. But regardless, there is a lot of truth to what she said, and we've been seeing it for the longest time. And the more we see it, the more turned off we are.
It's getting tired of that type of that vibe in music. They need to change that. Come up with something different.
But the thing is, you could still have some of that there, but it shouldn't be all that we hear and like all that we see. There should be more of a balance of girls who talk about that, girls who talk about socially conscious shit, girls who talk about having a good career or whatever the fuck they prefer, but just having it all ratchet shit, all my man better pay for everything I have shit. Yo, that shit's gonna get played out real fast. Hell, it's already played out now.
Yeah, just whack. It's a whack way.
Major League Whack Sauce. All right, so let's move on to our next topic. As while performing at Club Sky in Salt Lake City, Utah, of all places, Wacka Flocka Flame was very vocal about some of the Biden supporters in the audience, and this is what he had to say. All my Joe Biden voters, get out. We're gonna see y'all at the bingo game. We're gonna party right now for our fucking president, T24. Damn, son, this is how he really feels about people who like Biden. But damn, they paid to go see your show, bro. You gotta at least show some kind of love to them.
Yeah, I don't even know how he even found out there were Joe Biden supporters there. I don't know. Maybe is he like a big Trump supporter? Like,
Yeah, apparently he's been a Trump supporter for a minute, and there was even a picture that was online last year of the two of them together.
yeah, man. I don't know about like I don't understand how people could still support Trump, especially with the January 6th shit, the whole the whole grabbing them by the pussy shit. I don't get where people's morals are at. Like they don't. I guess they see past all that. They don't care. They just care about money. That's all they really care about. Like I don't understand why would you vote for that type of person who stands for certain things. Like I just don't get it. And people are out there sticking their necks out. Like I see Amber Rose is doing kind of like doing the same thing every chance she gets.
Yeah, Amber Rose is big on Trump.
She's
Amber
promoting
Rose is
Trump.
very big on
Like,
Trump.
I really don't get it, man. Like, and I feel like gotta really keep your eyes open and see what's really going on, man. I feel like there's a bigger agenda at play with the music, with a lot with these celebrities. There's a lot going on, man. You just gotta open your eyes and kind of see like what's going on. But this year is very, very important, and yeah, I don't feel like I don't like how music is blending with the politics in this case as well. Like if you're going to go to a concert and see an artist perform, it shouldn't be get political unless it's like some type of a political rally or something about voting. But if it's not that, I don't understand why he even called out people at the audience. I don't know. Maybe they went there to troll him on purpose because I know people do stupid shit like that sometimes, kind of like when the situation happened with the Rick Ross, which we'll get into in a second. I feel like maybe these people just trolling and just getting out of hand, and maybe he just addressed them. I don't know. Maybe that's what the case was, but I don't know, man. I don't feel like anybody, especially people of color, should be getting behind Trump, especially when he said the other night at the election. I mean, at the debate about black and Latino jobs that people are or these immigrants are taking black and Latino jobs. I don't even know what the fuck a black and a Hispanic job is. So that just shows you how they look at us. They look at us like we're just pieces of shit. Even though we've come a long way as far as civil rights, we're still a nigga at the end of the day.
I don't like Trump either. I haven't been a fan of his since probably like the early 2010s. Like when he first like started calling out Obama, that's like when I really started to turn against him. And then learning about the whole Central Park 5 situation, that shit really turned me off. And then just the way he acted like when he was becoming president initially, like during that first run, I was also shocked and I was also surprised to see how like people were still down for him despite all the dumb shit he would say and the shit he would do. And then my thing was it got to the point after a while, especially like in the 2020 election after he lost, I just said to myself, you know what, I don't like this dude is whack, but there's only so much time and so much attention that I can give to him. And like once he lost that 2020 election, I said to myself, I'm done with this Trump dude. I'm not posting about him anymore. I'm not talking about him anymore. There are a million and one bigger problems in the world than this fucking dude. And just obsessing about him, talking about him nonstop, and letting him live rent free in your mind is not a productive way of using your time. And I feel like The reason why probably more black people are probably down for Trump now, and I've been hearing a lot of that even from people I work with. A lot of them feel like they were doing better off financially and their money was better when Trump was in office as
That is
opposed to
true.
since Biden took over.
That is 100%.
That's the main complaint I heard. And also another thing, let's be real, Biden and the other side, they also suck. So that's another reason why people are probably turning to Trump.
Yeah, they both like Biden hasn't really given us anything really to
He's giving us
stand
jack
behind him
shit.
about. Yeah, like the stuff has gotten a lot more expensive. Cost of living, housing, all that stuff has gone up under Biden. But at the same time, what some people will argue is that all that stuff happened under Trump's watch. Is just that Biden was the one under. It takes things, it takes years or it takes time for things that Trump did to actually go into play, and it just happened to, it just went into play while Biden was president, and Biden's the one that actually has to clean it up. I don't know how true that is, but either way, most people are going to say that the life was better under Trump. So that's what people are going to fall back on. Because honestly, gas was cheaper. He gave everybody money, which people are going to always remember. And like, people who are small minded are always going to remember the money that he gave out, but not look at everything, the bigger picture. But, that's, some people can be bought like that. But I don't know, man. It just, there's partially a part, there's a truth to that things were a lot better under Trump. But I don't know how that works as far as like his policies and how much he had an effect on that.
Yeah, like I said a couple minutes ago, this whole thing between both sides, it's a no-win situation for all of us. Regardless of who wins, regardless of who gets elected, the losers are going to be us. As long as we keep falling for this, as long as we keep buying into this bullshit, we are the main ones who are going to be exploited, exposed, and the main ones who are going to suffer.
But either way, I'm still alive, so no matter who's the president, I'll be all right. I feel.
Yeah, that's the thing. That's the one thing. We put too much stock into this shit. There are a million and one bigger problems in the world and issues we need to worry about than who the fucking president is. And not even just that, a president who the electoral college elects anyway and not us.
Yeah, it's just all a joke.
Yeah, and you're getting on people's cases about voting for this person, voting for that person, when their vote doesn't really count and the final result in the first place. This shit is getting old, son. Wacka Flocka, I think, was wrong for kicking those fans out. Unless they were trolling them, unless they were fucking with them initially. If they just saw them wearing a Biden shirt and he just said, get the fuck out, that's not cool. Especially when they paid money to come see you. Yo, you do not do that shit to your fans.
Yeah, so I don't understand. Maybe I need more details, but yeah, they're more than likely were just trolling. They just probably wanted to just troll them and cause disturbance.
Yeah, if they were trolling with him, fucking with him, that's one thing. But if they were just standing there and they just happen to have a Biden shirt on, yo, that's not right.
At the same time, if you're a troll, why would you even do that? Why would you spend your money to go fuck with somebody at their concert? This doesn't make any sense, man. People are just fucking stupid these days and do fucking anything for attention.
Yep. Possibly drunk and fucked up too.
And then what if you go there, you trolling them, and then something happens and there's a fight, or you don't know what can happen, man.
And this happened in Utah of all places. I figured that Utah was like very pro Trump and very pro right wing.
And you know what this election is? People who are like radical and like crazed fans of like Trump or whatever, and people might do some crazy shit, just like the January 6th shit. So you just got to be careful, man.
Yeah, I just thought we were done with this dude. Like after that 2020 election, I thought this shit was over. We could move on. But it's 4 years later and we still have the same two options.
Just nuts.
If that's not a clear indication of where the fuck we are now, I don't know what is.
Yeah, countries went down a lot over the years, man.
Yeah, this country fell off harder than Humpty Dumpty. Just in general, like even if I were performing at a show and I saw people wearing Trump shirts or pro Republican shirts, I wouldn't kick them out and like talk shit to them or anything if they weren't doing anything to me.
Yeah.
That's one thing I learned is that even though I don't like Trump and even though I don't know what the fuck other people see in him, to automatically assume that somebody who voted for him is racist, a bigot, or a horrible person, that shit is also ignorant.
Yeah, it is. But they do have
Yeah,
some.
it's very ignorant.
They do have. But if you support him, I don't know, man. I feel like there's some like I don't know.
But like I said before, like especially even when it comes to the musicians we talked about a few minutes ago who are shitty people but make good music, at the end of the day, none of these people are really the good guys. You
Yeah,
could talk about how like Trump did this and Trump did that all you want, but the other side also at the same time is not that much better.
yeah, just it's just a mess right now.
Yeah, so regardless, you're supporting some fuck shit. All right, but let's move on to our next topic as Rick Ross was performing at a music festival this past Sunday in Vancouver, Canada, and during his performance, he played the Kendrick track dissing Drake, Not Like Us. And this is a very bold move considering that he was in Drake's territory of Canada. And as he was leaving the stage, a few people who presumably were hardcore Drake fans confronted Rick Ross and his entourage, and a big ass brawl broke out. And from the little footage I did see of it, it did seem like Rick Ross' crew lost the battle. They definitely had a lot of damage done to them. A lot of them got fucked up really badly. And yeah, this shit is really getting ugly. This is kind of like what you were talking about a few months ago with this whole beef thing. This is kind of what we were afraid of, that it would come to this, where it would become violent. And yeah, like people who are not even involved in it getting involved in it. And yeah, shit's just
Mhm.
ugly. Shit is just ugly, son.
It's always the crazy one. Somebody who's trying to come up. I don't know if you saw the the Uncle Luke video where he's
Yes, I
talking
did
about
watch it. I did watch that. I did see it.
yeah. So it makes a lot of sense what he's saying because if we see what happened like with Biggie and Pac, just as an example, that's the example everybody's gonna run with, but like it's always somebody like on the side that's like instigating shit. Like it's never gonna be like Drake is never gonna do something to Rick Ross or Rick Ross doing something to Drake. It's gonna be a goon or it's gonna be somebody on the side thinking like, yo, if I do this for Drake, that he's gonna look out for me. That's kind of like how their mentality is, or that's my hero. I'm gonna do this in the name of him. Like no man, that's like a fucked up way of thinking and there are crazed people. People are crazy in this world. Like there's people who are straight, and some people are just crazy, and they'll do anything just just to to get their name out there or for their celebrity or somebody who they're infatuated with. They'll do anything. So you just got to be careful. I felt like this was a dumb move by Rick Ross and his crew. Like, why would you instigate that situation unless you had like the proper security? Like, it looked like his security team wasn't prepared for what happened, and it just wasn't a good look. It makes Rick Ross look bad. It makes Drake look bad because I saw that he liked like one of the videos where it saw that what happened. So now he's like kind of like doing that Trump shit where he's kind of like adding more fuel to the fire and kind of like I would say enabling them or not enabling them, but like encouraging them to to continue to do like certain acts like this, which is not cool. Because all it's gonna do is it's gonna escalate, and it may not even something might not even happen to Drake or to Ross. It might be to like one of their friends that might hurt them or somebody in their crew. So I feel like the best thing for them to do is just like to let the shit go, keep it moving and just chill with the disses and just move on and let this beef die down. It's getting to the point where now like it's getting ridiculous now. Like you don't want to see people getting hurt, and I just feel like this could have been avoided. It was just a dumb move by playing that song. Why would first of all why are you performing in Canada with this shit going on, with this beef still going
Or
on,
maybe he was already
and then you're
booked.
gonna play not like
Maybe he was
us?
already booked before this, before it all got out of hand.
Possibly. Maybe he was booked, but to just to play not like us, like just kind of like to act, kind of act hard, or we're not thinking that people are going to retaliate, especially if like you're in his home country and he's a hometown, a country hero. So like you got to be think smarter than that, especially if you're only like five people deep compared to like hundreds of people. That just wasn't smart.
Yeah, when you're stepping into enemy territory, like if you have to perform a show, that's one thing. But to actually like play a song dissing the one dude in his own country, in his own home base, yeah, that's probably not going to end well. And it did not end well at all. Yeah, that one homeboy, especially towards the end of the video, he got fucked up. They were like kicking him in the face, like punching him really hard in the face multiple times. Yeah, this shit was bad. This shit was bad. And yeah, Marlon Wayans was
Yeah,
calling this out too. Marlon Wayans was also calling out the fact that this shit is getting out of hand and that they need to squash it.
yeah, they do, man. And I don't like the way that Drake acts online. Like he kind of instigates. Has little comments or cryptic messages that he posts, or he'll like the video of Ross getting into the altercation. Like And I even saw that he was talking to Rick Ross's baby mama, who Rick
Ah,
Ross goes back and forth with all the time. Like, come on, man! Like, he just doing the dumbest shit to instigate this shit. It's not gonna end well, man. Like, he thinks it's all fun and games until he gets caught slipping one day. It's not something to play with. I've seen two of the biggest artists get taken away with a matter of months because of some dumb shit, some shit that got escalated by the media and people around them. So let's not let this shit go any further. This shit needs to die down now before something really, really bad happens.
yeah, but the only thing is, I don't think "Not Like Us" is disappearing anytime soon because that song is huge. I knew that song was a big deal first off when it was number one in the Billboard charts. Then when I heard them playing it in commercials and even in ads for the BET Awards. And this past Monday at Jordan's birthday party, when all of him and his friends were singing it word for word, I'm like, bro, this shit is crazy. Who would have
Yeah.
ever thought a song dissing Drake, would be that fucking popular? It went from a song dissing Drake to a hit song that just happens to be dissing Drake.
Yeah, when for you to tell me that Drake won this battle when everybody
Shut the
knows the
fuck
song
up.
word for
Drake didn't
word.
win anything.
Like, there's no way you could tell me that Drake with a straight face. You could look me in my face and tell me that Drake won this battle. Like, look at the charts, look at the cultural impact, just look at everything. Like, just like that song is a big song. It's gonna be the song of the summer. Like, it's already Labor. It's already Memorial Day. I'm not it's past Memorial Day weekend.
Fourth
Is
of July.
4th of July, and the song felt like with the pop out concert and everything going on. It felt like, and the video is about to drop.
Ooh.
That it's gonna be
Ooh.
that the song's gonna live on for the rest of the summer. So Drake just needs to lay low until Labor Day weekend and come back with some cuffing season music. But the summertime is Kendrick's.
Yeah, and what like you were saying a few minutes ago about Drake's antics about how he likes stuff, about like Rick Ross getting beat up and instigates things and like acts like a troll all the time. Yeah, just those kind of antics that just makes it hard for you to root for him and makes you happy that he got dissed as hard as he did. But they definitely need to chill out with all this violence and all this like fighting and all this nonsense. It should never get to that point.
Yeah, because now Drake is not going to be allowed in Miami with all the stuff that he's doing with,
Or
Rick
LA.
Ross. Then LA or Miami anymore. Those are two really big, probably two of the biggest markets in the U.S. other
Yeah,
than
that's
New
what
York, as
That's
far
what
as
Uncle Luke
music.
was saying is that people are going to assume that the people who attacked Rick Ross and his entourage at that show in Canada were people that Drake hired. And even if it's not true, even if that's not the case, considering that it happened there and considering the issues going on between them, people are going to assume that. And what are they going to do when they assume that? Possibly when Drake goes to LA or in Kendrick's territory or Rick Ross's territory, he'll be a marked man.
Exactly. So gotta tread lightly, man. They need to have a peace offering or something. Do like the G Unit when 50 Cent and
Game.
Game got together with Farrakhan. So they're gonna need to do something like that.
Shit is ugly, man. It's a bad look for the culture. I hate to see shit like this, but unfortunately it happens.
Yeah. We'll
All right,
move
but
on.
let's get into some more positive news. Let's get into our anniversaries real fast. As this past week marked the 30-year anniversary of the Brat's debut album, Funkdafied. And believe it or not, ladies and gentlemen, this was the very first female solo hip hop album to go platinum.
Yes.
Holy shit, son. I would have thought it was maybe MC Light or Queen Latifah or one of them, but fuck, it was the Brat. Shout out to the Brat, son.
Yeah. Shout out to the Brat. Shout out to Jermaine Dupri for you know being a legend and helping put the Brat out. You had Chris Cross, you had the Brat, and yeah, there were definitely some big acts at that time. And I like how she was one of the first female. Well, at least back then, the female artists are different from how they are today. Like, they weren't
Say
dressing
that shit again.
yeah, they weren't dressed, they weren't like dressed showing themselves like that. They were more covered up. And I would say that most of the female rappers, as far as I remember, like MC Light, Queen Latifah, the Brat, they kind of dress more like tomboyish. They dress more like hardcore females that rapped, and kind of Rage was kind of like the same way. That's kind of like how I remember all like the female rappers at that time. Am I right?
Yeah, they had an intensity to them and an aggression to them, like in Lady of Rage's case, but they weren't like over sexualizing themselves, and they had shit to say, and they were all different. That was the biggest thing about that era compared to this era. They were all different.
Yeah, now all the females are like showing their skin to sell, and they're
And all they have to say is, I'm a bad chick, I'm a bad chick, I'm a bad chick, or twerk.
We're talking about what the guy bought them, this and that. So yeah, this is definitely like a 180 from like what the females are, today. But it was definitely a dope project. The Brat was one of the best female lyricists at that time, and she could hang with like some of the men. She even had that song with Biggie, the B side, which was a pretty dope song where her and Biggie are going back and forth. I think that was on the Bad Boys soundtrack, if I'm not mistaken, the first Bad
Oh,
Boys movie.
oh shit, yeah, the first Bad Boy soundtrack was dope actually. Yeah, I gotta check out for that.
Yeah, yeah, so that song was on there, and yeah, man, just Jermaine Dupri, bringing out another the artist at that time, and just shows how he had a knack for putting artists on, and also how to market them. He did a great job marketing Crisscross with the behind the back clothes, and then he did a great job marketing the Brat, and she was one of the most popular and well-known artists at that time. So definitely kudos to them for putting together a dope album. Funkdafied was definitely a dope song. I Want to Give It to You was another one that I remember from this
Ooh,
album.
Give It to You is my jam. I love that shit, especially when I'm like throwing a party or at a party or something. Yeah, that shit is the jam, son.
Yeah, definitely a dope track. And then they also had some other social deaf artists that were on the album. They had the girl from Escape. Yeah, so but yeah, man, it was dope, a dope project. Dope to see So Def, and yeah, this was, I would say, this is a jump off for So Def. I would say because the Chris Cross didn't really rep So Def like that, but this was like the one that really like put So Def on the map.
Yeah, definitely. And this was also like the peak period of Freaknik. Yeah, that 94 period was like when Freaknik was at its peak. And like it was like really an open door for like Atlanta hip hop. And Outkast had just came out with Southern Playalistic like right before this. So yeah, this is a really good year for Atlanta hip hop. And this album was
Yeah,
one example why. And I'll compare the Brat to like the female version of Snoop Dogg. That's the vibe I got from this whole album. And she was like the female Snoop Dogg.
I get that. Yeah, she was talking about smoking and doing all that other stuff. So
Yeah, the sound of it, the way she dressed, yeah, the way she carried herself. Yeah, I definitely got a lot of Snoop Dogg vibes from me.
yeah, because Snoop did use a lot of like the George Clinton, those type of Parliament, those type of crews. So yeah, it definitely was influenced by that sound. Snoop's first album was like that in the Doggy Dog world, and then the Funkdafied, had the same kind of vibe to it as well. So yeah, the George Clinton and the Parliament definitely played a big role in influencing those albums, those artists as well.
Yeah, good shit. Shout out to the Brat. Congratulations to her for being the very first female solo rapper to go platinum ever. Yeah, that shit's a huge accomplishment. And yo, 30 years later, this album and the tracks on it still bump. Yeah, just a special time, and she definitely contributed a lot to that special time. Straight up.
Yeah, definitely a legend in the game. They
All
don't
right,
talk
but
about her enough, but they definitely need to. Definitely one of the premier artists in the '90s for females.
yeah, but shout out to the Brat, shout out to Jermaine Dupri, Atlanta, the city of Atlanta. Yeah, this is some good shit and definitely something worth bumping to 30 years later.
For real. Rat tat tat tat.
All right, let's shift gears to our next anniversary as 2 years later, we had the release of Nas's second album, It Was Written. And to this day, this is Nas's most successful album as it went triple platinum and was number one on the Billboard charts for at least a month or so. And yo, this album did work, son.
Sheesh.
Whether or not you like it more than Illmatic, that's debatable. That's a different subject for another time. But as far as being a success and as far as exposing Nas to a different audience, this album definitely accomplished that. If you have Lauryn Hill on the hook for your lead single when Lauryn Hill and the Fugees are at their peak, yo, that is a recipe for success.
Yeah, man. There's so many things I could say about this album. One thing I want to start off by saying is like, if it wasn't for Illmatic, people would look at this album as probably one of the greatest, top 10 greatest hip hop albums of all time. Is that it's definitely that good, and just Illmatic was just such a timeless classic album that it kind of overshadows this album. But in its own right, this album is I could put this album against almost any other hip hop album that ever came out, and this would go toe to toe with almost any album. Man, this album was like, I don't know, man. There's a lot to say about this album. As you said, it was Nas's sophomore album. and there was a lot of pressure on him, especially with the success of Illmatic, for him to, to come back strong. And yeah, he definitely delivered with this album. Some people might have said that he sold out because he went and got Lauryn Hill for the commercial, for his big single, and it was kind of like a night and day difference from his first album, how Illmatic was more grimy, underground, and gritty, and this one was a little bit more commercialized and more braggadocious, more mafioso, more gang culture related, kind of that vibe. So was definitely a new leaf for Nas, and it's definitely, like you said, it was his most successful album. And I feel like this was like the peak Nas, like as far as him rhyming and his flows. Like I feel like this album he was like his lyrics were like on a whole nother level. Like I feel like this is like peak Nas as far as like his rhyming and his flow and his ability. Like I feel like this album was just up there as far as on what he did. I'll let you get in some. But just to start the tone of the album, how it starts with the message. The message was at the beginning of "If I Ruled the World" video. I don't know if you remember, but it was
Yeah, I
the he
do.
was
I
sitting.
do.
Yeah, it was the first part of the video, and ever since then I was hooked, and I could like recite that whole first verse of that song word for word, like it happened, like it came out yesterday. And then just going into the rest of the album, "Street Dreams," "I Gave You Power," and I'll let you get in some of your favorites, but yeah, just "I Give You Power," how creative that song was. That song was ahead of its time. And that's one of the things that made me appreciate Nas on a whole nother level compared to a lot of artists, because I feel like a lot of artists weren't as creative as Nas as far as telling a story from the perspective of a gun and going through the whole story, and it just made sense, and the whole concept was just, he just knocked it out the park. And that just made me really appreciate Nas on a whole nother level. But before I go any further, I'll let you go ahead and get some of your thoughts in, and I'll chime back in.
Yeah, I Gave You Power is incredible. That's like one of the first real examples of just how creative and how innovative Nas was. Just telling that whole story from the perspective of a gun. Like, who the fuck else was doing that at the time? I know Tupac did it afterwards with Me and My Girlfriend on Machiavelli, but Nas can definitely be credited for being the first one. Yeah, he bodied that track. Also, Street Dreams. Personally, I know the song's a little tainted now. I prefer the Street Dreams remix with R. Kelly,
Oh
but I
yeah,
still do love the original.
both are dope in
And I like,
their own way. Both are dope in their own way. But "Street Dreams," the R. Kelly remix was probably one of the best songs of that year. That was a really good song.
yeah, but the original one was also dope. Also used the All Eyes on Me beat from Tupac's All Eyes on Me album. But I have to say, if I had to pick which one I like more, I might have to slightly give the edge to Street Dreams. Not by a lot,
Yeah.
but I would have to maybe slightly pick that one.
I like the video to "Street Dreams" too. How they reenacted the movie Casino.
Yeah, that was dope. And they got the dude from Casino too, Frank Vincent. Yeah, they got him in it.
That was a dope video. That was a high budget video. That's why they kind of said not sold out, because that video was like high budget compared. If you look at New York State of Mind or It Ain't Hard to Tell, and you see "Street Dreams" video, like it's a
And
whole
One Love.
big production. Yeah,
Yeah, there was definitely a huge difference in the money and production that went into this album compared to Illmatic. But what the fuck do you expect the dude to do? Despite how great Illmatic was and how highly people think of Illmatic, it did not do that well commercially. Nas was not in a good place financially the year before It Was Written came out, to the point where he was like so strapped for cash, he had to take out a loan just so he could wear clothes to go to the Source Awards that year.
damn, it's nuts.
Yeah, and then
I
when he was
remember.
at the Source Awards, he saw how well Biggie and Puffy were doing. He saw how successful they were. So, like, after seeing that, he knew he had to switch some shit up.
Yeah, and he definitely did it with this album.
And also, collaborating on Raekwon's album and also AZ's album, that also helped, like, get his name out more and, like, do more promotion for this project, which when it would come out. And then when It Was Written dropped, it was a rap, bro. This is definitely the most successful and probably the most popular commercially he ever was.
No, I was saying "I Rule the World" did numbers. That was like one of the biggest songs of that summer when it came out. The video, the song, yeah, that definitely solidified him as a household name once
Yeah,
that
and it's
track came out.
a great track. I don't look at it as a sellout track. I mean, granted, I know it became commercial and there was like a lot of commercial aspects of it, but as far as like the topic, the subject matter, it's not a sellout song. I don't look at it that way.
Yes, I don't know. So people just like to complain about greatness when somebody's great, like even Jordan. they complain about him. They always find something.
who I dissed recently, by the way.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah, I got his ass good, but that's another story. But yeah, other good tracks on this album do include Watch Them Niggas with Foxy Brown. Also, Black Girl Lost was dope. Black Girl Lost was a good track. Affirmative Action, which is like the first glimpses of the firm, which we would see later on. We got
Yeah,
that
there
on
is,
this album
you
too.
know, Cormega, Foxy Brown, Nas. That was a dope. And Nas, I believe, wrote a lot of probably wrote the whole Foxy verse, which is a fire verse as well.
And the setup with Havoc, yo, that production on that track is ridiculous.
Yeah, that's another one. But there's a song that you're missing, bro.
I know there's one song on this album you don't like. You've told me this before, and it's a song with Dr. Dre, "The Nas Is Coming." I know you've been very critical of that song in the past.
Yeah, I feel like compared to the whole rest of the album, I felt like that song didn't really mesh with it. But I do understand what they were trying to do. That was like the first time that East Coast and a West Coast East Coast artist and a West Coast producer teamed up together on the track. Especially this was when like the East Coast West Coast was going on was
Yeah,
getting
this is like
started.
the height. Yeah, this is like literally the height of the whole East Coast West Coast thing, and the two of them are on a track together.
Yeah, and I believe they're related. They're cousins or something. From what I remember, there was a rumor or something that they were related. But nonetheless, like I felt like that track was like didn't kind of go with the album, and kind of, when you hear Nas and Dr. Dre, you think it's gonna be like a one of the best tracks, but actually was one of the worst tracks on the album. But that was like only one of the only issues that I had with that album was probably that track. My favorite track on this album, I would probably say this is probably one of my favorite Nas songs of all time. Taken in Blood. Taken in Blood, like that beat, the way Nas flows on that song, that's like the best. I don't know. I don't see anybody flowing better than Nas. That's like peak Nas on that track. He just paints a story like it's a like that song is like a canvas, and he just painting a story with his words. Like that song is like so dope. I don't know if the last time you heard it, but Taken in Blood. And there was even also like an alternate version that was on like the mixtapes as well that was floating around. I want to say it was on a crew tape or something, but it was definitely like another version. But Taking in Blood is definitely one of those joints where anytime you hear it, it feels like you just heard it for the first time. And like you mentioned, Black Girl Lost, that was another dope track, kind of touching on like how females were in the hood, and telling the story about what happened to the girl in the hood, and then JoJo being on the hook when this is peak Casey and JoJo time, so and or Jodeci time. So just another dope track, and yeah, man. And I didn't even get to like the features he had: Mobb Deep, you had Lauryn Hill, obviously, you had The Firm. So there's a
Dr.
lot of dope.
Dre.
Dr. Dre, a lot of dope features, star-studded album, and it's just great top to bottom, man. Other than that, Nas's coming track, I feel like every song on here is pretty dope. And also shouts out to the track master too as well.
And I don't know if you know, he kind of disses Biggie on the message.
Yeah, because Biggie, him and Biggie had some. They were trying to like going for the crown at that time. And Biggie, I'm kicking the door. Biggie mentioned, or not mentioning, but that first line was towards Nas. Your reign on the top was short like leprechauns.
Yeah,
That's going. That's
yeah, I remember that. I think he referenced his daughter too, Destiny, on it.
yeah. Your destiny lays in my hands. Something like that.
All I gotta say from looking at Destiny recently, I would not mind being Nas's son-in-law.
Yeah, she looks pretty good. She looks pretty good.
Hell yeah, she looks pretty good.
Yeah, her mom used to be like in all the music videos back in the day too. So yeah, pretty sure she doesn't. Yeah,
But I will say this album was the perfect balance between commercial Nas and still like real authentic Nas from Queensbridge.
yeah, definitely had the hardcore stuff, had the commercial stuff, had the features. Yeah, this is this complete album. It's a dope album, man. Like the production, just the flows, the songs, the messages. Like it was just a dope album all the way around, man.
Yeah, and a great album in a year full of many great albums from this one, Reasonable Doubt, which the anniversary was for last week. Also, the score from the Fugees, All Eyes on Me from Tupac, Machiavelli from Tupac, Legal Drug Money from the Lost Boys. The list goes on, bro. That year was incredible. And this album was just another example of why it was so incredible. I don't think the arguments and the criticism he got for being too commercial were really accurate on this album, but on I Am and Nostradamus, I feel like those criticisms were more accurate.
Yeah, I would say that he did a little bit too extra. too extra. But this was the album where he had a perfect balance between the street and the commercial. I feel like he knocked it out the park with this one.
Yeah, he did incredible album. I'm gonna go back and listen to it later today. And yeah, definitely one of the reasons why I'm such a big Nas fan. And one of the reasons why he has one of the best discographies in all of hip hop. Literally in Nas' discography, you'll only find two bad albums.
I don't know any other artist who has a better first two albums than Nas. I don't.
Kanye's one example. Kanye did. Biggie also.
Yeah, well, I don't know, man. It was written is better than. I feel like it was better than Life After Death.
Better than the second disc of Life After Death. The first disc, that's debatable, but it's definitely better than the second disc.
Yeah, if Life After Death was one album, I felt like it can go neck and neck. But I don't know. It was written, man. Especially when it came out. I remember the feeling when the album came out, man. It just hit different, man. It was written as it's like on a whole nother level, man.
Yeah, that was a crazy summer. Yeah, that happened. That was the summer the 72 Bulls team won the NBA title. That was the 96 Summer Olympics here in Atlanta. That was also the same summer that Hulk Hogan formed the NWO.
Yeah, there's a lot going on that year.
Yeah, that summer was mad wild, son. All right, but yeah, classic album. Not enough great things we could say about it. I think we'll probably be here all day talking to you guys about how much we love this album. So I think it's time to move on to the next topic, as this past week marked the 13-year anniversary of Kendrick Lamar's Section 80. And this is the first time I ever even heard Kendrick Lamar. When you gave me the CD to listen to, I didn't even know who the fuck he was. But by the time I was finished listening to it, I could not get
You're
enough.
welcome.
Like when I heard this for the first time, I just said, "Yo, who the fuck is this dude, and why am I just hearing about him now?" Yeah, I was jamming to that Section 80 shit for like a year straight when I first heard it. One of the reasons why I love hip hop so much, and I was definitely a breath of fresh air at the time, considering what the climate was, and definitely 13 years later, in my opinion, possibly Kendrick's best work, or at least in the top three.
Yeah, definitely. This is the project that definitely got me on, put me on to Kendrick Lamar. I didn't really know too much about him because this is like when the blogs were really popular. This is when J. Cole, Big Sean, Drake, all those type of artists started, coming out. ASAP Rocky around that time. So he definitely Kendrick brought some breath, something new to the game. He was I would say poetic. He had a lot of messages and he told a lot of stories in his music. So it was definitely a dope project. And definitely, as you can see, with this section 80, this was like a more or less like a mixtape that some people looked. It was so good that people looked at it as if it was an album. So that's why some people,
Like So Far Gone, kind of like So Far
yeah,
Gone.
they consider it his debut, but it really wasn't debut. Like Good Kid, Mad City was really like his full length like debut album. But this one is the one where a lot of people got put onto him. It was like peak blog era, and this was like kind of like his ode to the '80s and the Ronald Reagan era. He's talking a lot about racism, talking a lot about the government, talking a lot about it like his upbringing and like people in the hood and things like that. So just a dope project, and just like when the project starts, like that song "Hold Up," man, that song was like one of his best songs that he ever made, man, and just kind of like sets the tone for the rest of the project. And yeah, man, I'll let you get into some of your favorites, but that "Hold Up" was one of my favorites. I also probably my favorite song on this project was probably "High Power," which was produced by J. Cole. J. Cole produced that track, and I think it was the outro track, but that was one of my
Yeah, it
yeah, that
was.
was one of my favorite joints on there. But I'll let you get in some of your joints in.
Fuck Your Ethnicity, the first track, that
Oh
shit's
yeah,
dope. Also, ADHD, you definitely learn a lot from that.
yeah,
Also, No Makeup. Oh, son, No Makeup, especially that production. Yeah, and a great message too. How many rappers make songs about girls like, looking better without makeup on and like telling them to be like their full, like natural self?
yeah.
Like, who the fuck else does that?
Especially media these days now, especially nowadays.
Yeah, this song would definitely be relevant to modern times. Definitely would do a lot of good to have music like this promoted more. But yeah, that track was also dope. Also, Kush and Corinthians, that shit gives me goosebumps.
Oh yeah, I forgot about that one. Yeah, that was a dope one.
And also Keisha's song. Keisha's song is like the modern version of Brenda's Got a Baby.
Yeah,
Damn, is it good? Damn, is it good?
yeah. He had a couple like songs like that. He had a Keisha song, and then he had the other one, Tammy song as well. That was talking about like a female as well. So yeah, he had a lot of deep. these tracks with messages on that album. I also like that song Ronald Reagan era. That was another joint that I liked.
Also, Absols,
Yeah, pretty much the whole
Life is a
project,
Traffic
man.
Jam. Life is a Traffic Jam. Yeah, that shit was fire.
The Spiteful Chant. I think they took it off of streaming services, but that was another dope track. And then Rigor Mortis. I remember Rigor Mortis, and then he had Busta Rhymes on the remix. I don't know if you remember that, but they were both rapping like
Nah, I don't think I
fast
would
back and
call
forth.
that one.
Yeah, that definitely need to check it out. It should be online.
Yeah, and this is really like the start of Kendrick, like really becoming that dude. Like that, this is like the start of him becoming a part of that big three along with J. Cole and Drake. Yeah, and it's crazy. I never even heard of him until you gave me that CD, and then once you gave me that CD, I was hooked.
Yeah, this was because I know this was what got me hooked onto him, and made me want to add him to my rotation of music. And yeah, this album or mixtape, however you want to call it, did have a big impact. This got him a lot of performances. Made him into a household name, especially on the blogs. Like everybody knew about Kendrick after this project dropped. I know he dropped like something before, but it wasn't like as popular as this one. This was the one that really like set it off for him. And yeah, and then ever since then, he's just been making classic music since then, man, and kind of like in the same lane. This album, listen back to it, kind of reminds me of like Mr. Morale, kind of like that album. It's a little bit like that. You can kind of see like where the Mr. Morale kind of like where or kind of originated from, like kind of like the vibe. But it was definitely a dope project, and yeah, one that would solidify Kendrick as one of the greats of his era.
He's had a lot of great albums since then. Obviously, Good Kid, Mad City, Mr. Morale being another example. But damn, it's really hard for me to say that I like any of them as much as I like this one. Just from that very first time alone that I heard it, yeah, there's just nothing like Section 80, son.
Yeah, definitely a dope project, man.
Yeah, production, content, lyrical ability, skill, and putting the West Coast on his back with this project and the few that would come after this. Yeah, Kendrick really solidified himself with this project.
Yeah, and definitely didn't sound like a LA artist. You know how LA artists they have like an accent or the way a twang to them, but nah, he definitely didn't sound like a West Coast artist.
And he's carried that torch very well in this last decade or so. From initially NWA having that torch, and then Ice Cube by himself, then Snoop and Dre, then Pac, then Game had it for a little while. But Kendrick, he's definitely carried that shit very well. That Pop Out concert a few weeks ago was a prime example.
Yeah, definitely put on for his city and his state. And you saw that they put that pop out picture, the picture of all of them. They put it as a billboard in LA, in Inglewood.
Nah, I don't think I caught that. I didn't, but I'll check out for it. But damn, such an incredible album Section 80 was. If you haven't heard it in a while or haven't heard it, period, go listen to that shit ASAP. Like right when you're done listening to this episode, go listen to Section 80. I'm telling you, that is 1 hour of your time that is going to be very fucking well spent.
Yes, sir. Definitely a classic.
All right, but King Kong, before we get out of here, let our listeners know how they can follow us on social media and listen to past episodes of the podcast.
Yeah, so if you want to check us out on social media or want to debate some of our topics and takes, you can visit us on Facebook, TikTok, and Instagram at Shifting the Culture Podcast. And if you want to learn more about the show or catch up on some previous episodes, you can visit shiftingtheculturepodcast.com.
Yeah, holler at us. Let us know what you think. We'd be more than happy to discuss and debate with you about any of these topics in a peaceful way. But until next time, for King Khan, this is Conscious Kurt with another edition of the Shifting the Culture podcast. Take care. Enjoy your 4th of July weekend. Also, Essence Music Festival, you're going to there too. And whether you are an old school head or a new school head, always remember to respect the motherfucking culture. Have a good one, y'all.
Peace.